Hi everyone, it's me, your boy, Uncle Melty, the host of the Metal Meltdown, and I'm in surprisingly excellent condition despite an entire weekend of Halloween drinks, parties, and shenanigans. Why is that, you ask? I will tell you, but only because you asked so nicely. I'm better than you. I'm built different. I have a liver made of steel. But even if this was not the case, but it is, I would still happily be doing this right now, persevering to talk about music with you because I love you and because this album is cool and important. It's In the Earth Again, a brand new collaborative LP from Chatpile and Hayden Pedigo. Or maybe it's Pedigo? I don't know. Hayden. How you doing, Hayden? Bet you never thought you'd be talked about on a channel called the Metal Meltdown. Now, did ya? If you've paid a moderate amount of attention to metal, alternative, and extreme music over the course of the past few years, there's a good chance you're already familiar with Chatpile from Oklahoma City. They've done a really great job at tackling modern despair and political, social, economic struggles and issues and concerns through a mishmash of aggressive and dour, apocalyptic, noise rock, post-punk, and sludge metal. You are probably not familiar, however, though, with one Hayden Pedigo or Pedigo. I don't know. Hayden. And don't worry, because up until a week ago, neither was I. Hailing originally from Amarillo, Texas, Hayden is many a thing. He is a model, having made his runway debut at Gucci's 100th anniversary event in 2022. He is a politician also of sorts, having run for city council in Amarillo, Texas back in the late 2000s. It was apparently a pretty high-profile and mostly successful campaign. It was the subject of a documentary called Kid Candidate, released in 2021, if I'm not mistaken, and Rolling Stone said of the campaign itself, if David Lynch were in charge of a political campaign, it might look something like Pettigo's. What the fuck does that mean? I don't know, I wasn't there, but that sounds cool as hell. Texas Monthly also said this after the election: just by running and by doing it for the camera, Pettigo exposed Amarillo's hidden in plain sight corporatocracy. Okay, I'm gonna have to watch this Kid Candidate movie, I guess. It sounds really interesting, actually. This guy sounds really cool and interesting. But, most importantly, for the purposes of this conversation, this review, Hayden is a musician, an avant-garde, ambience, Americana, fusion musician, and performance artist, whose style and overall aesthetic, believe it or not, pairs quite nicely with that of Chatpile's. They complement each other far better than one would immediately assume and suspect. This is a collaboration that makes sense, that feels organic, and that's ultimately why I would say this is one of the better collaborative albums that we've had in recent memory. It's bleak, and it's bitter, and it's dripping and oozing with melancholy, and it taps into rage and aggression and impatience and masculine guilt and toxic masculinity. And it is both a quiet embrace and acceptance of apocalyptic conditions of living, and also very critical of the very foundation that allowed for this to happen. The foundation of violence and war and bloodshed that allows the society that we live in to thrive and continue and stand. You can really hear and feel the former quite heavily in the very mellow, contemplative, naked, shimmering, shoegazy goodness of Radioactive Dreams, as Hayden and Chatpile sing and write. So I'm sitting now half in the earth with the ghosts of my friends and the ghost of the world, and the echo is endless, so I share my song with the veins of the soil and the angels on the earth. And you can also hear and feel the latter quite heavily on the very anxious, ominous, aggressive, plodding, smoky, noisy metal of Never Say Die, as Hayden and Chatpile sing and write. They spread their bloody wings and they ignited the sky. As to the cost of the world, they offered no reply. But it was steely resolve. It was the spoils of war. Cost of their pleasure was blood. The screaming skull screams some more. And as I'm sure you can already tell from those descriptions, this is as sonically robust as it is lyrically intense. There's a lot of give and take, a lot of back and forth, a lot of contrast between these two styles, between all these different sounds, and overall, it strikes a great balance and fusion of everything that Hayden and Chatpile do so well. You've got the Matador, for instance, which is filled with dark, atmospheric, ambient textures and waves, combined with burly riffs and pummeling, pounding, churning beats and shouting vocals. It kind of feels like Ethel Cain in her darkest moments on Preacher's Daughter, trying her hands at like Chatpile style, noisy, sludgy metal. On that note, Fish and Fusion goes further into some of the most erratic, extreme, and experimental nuances and moments of the Chatpile discography, especially in its opening moments. It is hostile, it is uncompromising, it is messy, it is noisy, it is wild. And after all this depraved sonic violence and chaos, the song mysteriously kind of transitions into some more slow-paced, semi-obtuse kind of post-punk. Almost as if the band themselves, depleted of energy, give up on themselves in this song. And then you've got A Tear for Lucas, which I think does a great job at closing out this album on a very bittersweet kind of note, opting for a more quiet, subdued, very bare bones acoustics ballad kind of approach with this very broken, timid kind of vocal performance. I hear this song and I almost immediately have this image of like a lone grave off in like the desert somewhere and somebody just like very quietly, solemnly making their way to pay respects. The intro number, Outside, is similarly a pretty picturesque number, but it is more lush, it is more warm. It for a brief moment kind of captures the beauty of the American Southwest. And you know, normally I don't really care about like interluding ambient instrumental tracks, but you know, I gotta say, there's a lot of stuff here like Demon Time and Inside and Beyond a Pale Horse that is filled with some really nice acoustics and combined with lush, sprawling, vast, droning, swelling guitars to create some very cathartic moments and vibes. I'm very impressed and surprised by this album, honestly. I know that I've given out a lot of 4.5 out of 5s lately, to the point where some of y'all have started making jokes about that. And I definitely don't want to give out too many of those because I don't want to dilute the importance of that score. But god damn it, 4.5 out of 5. I think it's kind of an incredible record. I'm very moved by this album. I think it's fantastic. Like, I'm being serious here. There's really not much about this that is metal. And Chatpile already were kind of a band that, like, depending on who you ask, they kind of aren't really a metal band. They're more like noise post-punk with sludge metal elements. And I mean, this especially is like, it's not really a metal album, but I want to talk about it because it's the most interesting thing that I think is out right now alongside the Primitive Man album, and because a lot of other people aren't really talking about it, and because even if it isn't metal, it is heavy, and because it is one of the strongest and most unique albums I have heard this year in the rock spectrum overall. Filled with emotion, filled with atmosphere, filled with important things to share and discuss. It is immersive and sprawling and vast and full of color and life, despite being such a bleak and bitter and destructive affair. Honestly, I think I like this more than, like, God's Country and Cool World. Straight up. And I like those records. I like Chatpile, but, like, I think they've kind of surpassed themselves with this album, and I would highly recommend they collaborate with Hayden again in the future. But hey, that's up to them. Whatever. It's all good. Point is, it's a fantastic album, and you should absolutely check it out. 4.5 out of 5. Incredible. Honest to God. And that is it for the Metal Meltdown. I am not an expert, nor do I claim to be, contrary to popular belief. So what do you think? Do you like this record? Do you not like this record? And what do you want to hear from me next? And thank you for watching. Make sure you press subscribe right here so you get updates on the Metal Meltdown immediately. Blah, 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 blah. Other videos, join us on Discord, and as always, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.